August 4th, 1962. 5800 Fifth Helena Drive, Brentwood, Los Angeles. 4:47 p.m. Marilyn Monroe sat in her bedroom, staring at the red leather diary on her lap, trying to decide if she should burn it or use it as a weapon. The diary contained 6 months of secrets, classified information about Cuba, about CIA assassination plots, about President Kennedy's mob connections, information that could destroy the most powerful man in the world. And that's exactly why in less than 12 hours Marilyn Monroe would be dead. She'd been awake since 3 a.m., unable to sleep despite taking 4 Nembo pills the night before. The insomnia had been getting worse for months, ever since Kennedy ended their relationship in May. Since then she'd been spiraling, drinking heavily, taking pills by the handful, missing work, getting fired from her last film. But the insomnia wasn't just about heartbreak, it was about fear. Because ever since she'd threatened Bobby Kennedy with the diary 3 weeks ago, strange things had been happening. Cars parked outside her house with men inside who never got out, just watched. Phone calls where nobody spoke, just breathing and then clicking off. Mail that looked like it had been opened and resealed. And yesterday she'd come home from therapy to find her bedroom ransacked. Drawers pulled open, papers scattered, her mattress slightly askew. Someone had been searching for something. The diary. They'd been looking for the diary. Marilyn had found it exactly where she'd hidden it, tucked inside a hollowed-out copy of Ulysses on her bookshelf. They'd missed it. But they'd be back. She knew they'd be back. That's why she'd called Bobby Kennedy this morning. Left a message with his secretary. Tell him Marilyn called. Tell him I need to talk about Jack, about what I know. Tell him it's urgent. Bobby hadn't called back. Instead, at 3 p.m., Dr. Ralph Greenson had shown up at her house unannounced. Dr. Greenson, her psychiatrist, the man who'd been treating her depression and anxiety for 2 years. Marilyn, we need to talk, Greenson had said, his voice unusually stern. I got a call from someone in Washington. They're very concerned about you, about your mental state. Who called you? That's not important. What's important is that you're making threats, threatening to go public with private information about important people. I never said I'd go public. I just want them to stop watching me. Stop breaking into my house. Nobody's breaking into your house, Marilyn. You're paranoid. The pills and the alcohol are making you paranoid. Someone was in my bedroom yesterday. While I was gone, things were moved. Or you moved them and don't remember because you were intoxicated. Marilyn had started crying then. Because maybe Greenson was right. Maybe she was paranoid. Maybe the surveillance was all in her head. But the diary wasn't in her head. The diary was real. The secrets were real. And the danger was real. I want you to destroy it, Greenson had said. Whatever you've written about President Kennedy, burn it, for your own safety. Is that medical advice or a threat? It's both. Greenson had left shortly after, but not before giving her a prescription for more sleeping pills. Take 3 tonight, he'd said. You need rest. Now at 4:47 p.m., Marilyn sat alone in her bedroom, holding the diary, knowing she had to make a choice. Burn it and be safe, or keep it and use it as insurance against the people who wanted her dead. What Marilyn didn't know was that the decision had already been made for her. At that exact moment, 3 men were driving toward her house. Men who'd been authorized to solve the Monroe problem permanently. Men who would be inside her bedroom in less than 6 hours. And by dawn, Marilyn Monroe would be dead. The diary would be gone, and the official story would be suicide. But this is the true story of Marilyn's final night. The 12 hours between 5 p.m. on August 4th and 5 a.m. on August 5th. The hours when a cover-up became a murder. The hours when Hollywood's biggest star was silenced forever. Part 1. The Last Afternoon. August 4th, 1962. 5 p.m. 7:30 p.m. After Dr. Greenson left, Marilyn tried to decide what to do with the rest of the day. She had no work. She'd been fired from Something's Got to Give in June. She had no appointments, no dinner plans, just empty hours stretching ahead. She called her friend and masseur Ralph Roberts. Ralph, can you come over? I'm lonely. I can't tonight, Marilyn. I have other clients. But I can come tomorrow morning. I might not be here tomorrow morning. What does that mean? Nothing. Never mind. I'll see you tomorrow. She hung up. That phrase, I might not be here tomorrow morning, would haunt Ralph Roberts for the rest of his life. Had Marilyn been planning suicide, or had she known something was coming? At 5:30 p.m., Marilyn's housekeeper Eunice Murray arrived to cook dinner. Murray was more than a housekeeper. She was a paid companion hired by Dr. Greenson to monitor Marilyn's mental health and report back to him. Marilyn knew this but pretended not to. What would you like for dinner, Miss Monroe? Murray asked. I'm not hungry. Dr. Greenson said you should eat. You're getting too thin. Dr. Greenson says a lot of things. Marilyn walked to the living room, poured herself a vodka from the bar cart despite it only being 5:30 in the afternoon. She noticed Murray watching her, judging her. Do you report my drinking to Dr. Greenson? Marilyn asked. I report anything that concerns me about your health. So yes, Miss Monroe, we're all trying to help you. Are you? Or are you all trying to control me? Murray didn't answer. She went to the kitchen to prepare food that Marilyn wouldn't eat. At 6:15 p.m., the phone rang. Marilyn answered, hoping it was Bobby Kennedy finally calling her back. Instead, it was Joe DiMaggio Jr., her ex-husband's son from his first marriage. Marilyn had remained close to Joe Jr. even after divorcing his father in 1990. He said, "I heard you've been having a rough time." "I'm fine, Joey, just lonely. My dad's worried about you. He says you've been calling him a lot lately." Marilyn had been calling Joe DiMaggio Sr. frequently over the past month, not because she wanted to get back together, their marriage had been a disaster, but because Joe was one of the few people she trusted, one of the few people who seemed to genuinely care about her, rather than what she could do for them. "I just need someone to talk to," Marilyn said. "Someone who isn't a doctor or a studio executive or a politician." "What politicians are you talking to?" Marilyn paused. She'd almost slipped, almost told Joe Jr. about the Kennedys, about the diary, about everything. "Nobody." "Never mind. How are you doing, Joey?" They talked for 20 minutes about Joe Jr.'s life, his job, his relationships. Normal conversation, the kind of normal that Marilyn desperately craved but could never quite achieve because her life was anything but normal. After hanging up, Marilyn felt slightly better, slightly more grounded. She decided she'd eat something, take a bath, maybe try to sleep early tonight. But at 7 p.m., everything changed. A car pulled into her driveway. Marilyn looked out the window and saw a black sedan, government plates. 2 men in suits got out. Marilyn's heart started racing. This was it. They'd come for the diary. She grabbed the red leather notebook from her bedside drawer and ran to her bookshelf, shoved it back inside the hollowed-out Ulysses. Then she went to answer the door. The 2 men standing on her doorstep looked like FBI agents. Dark suits, serious expressions, no warmth in their eyes. "Miss Monroe, we need to speak with you," one of them said, flashing a badge too quickly for her to read what agency it represented. "About what?" "About a matter of national security. May we come in?" Marilyn knew she should say no, should call a lawyer, should refuse to talk to them without representation. But she was drunk and scared and desperate to understand what was happening, so she let them in. Part 2. The interrogation. 7:30 p.m., 9 p.m. The conversation that sealed her fate. The 2 men sat in Marilyn's living room, refusing her offer of drinks, declining to give their full names. They introduced themselves only as Agent Miller and Agent Ross. "Miss Monroe, we understand you've been in a relationship with President Kennedy," Agent Miller began. "That's private. Nothing involving the president is private, especially when national security is compromised." "I haven't compromised anything. We have evidence that President Kennedy shared classified information with you during your relationship. Information about CIA operations, about Cuba, about sensitive matters that you should never have been told." Marilyn said nothing. Her hands were shaking. "We also understand you've documented these conversations. In a diary, is that correct?" "I don't know what you're talking about." Agent Ross leaned forward. "Miss Monroe, we're not here to hurt you. We're here to help you understand the situation. You're in possession of information that could damage national security. That makes you a liability. But if you cooperate with us, if you turn over the diary, we can make this problem go away." "What problem?" "The problem of you knowing things you shouldn't know." Marilyn felt ice run through her veins. This wasn't a request, it was a threat. "What if I don't have a diary?" she asked. "Then we'll search your house until we find it." "You can't do that. This is America. You need a warrant." Agent Miller smiled coldly. "No, Miss Monroe, we don't." For the next 90 minutes, the 2 agents interrogated Marilyn. What had Kennedy told her? What had she written down? Who else knew about the diary? Had she told anyone about Kennedy's secrets? Marilyn tried to lie, tried to minimize what she knew, but she was drunk and scared and not a good liar when it came to serious things. Finally, at 8:45 p.m., Agent Ross said, "Miss Monroe, we're going to search your house now. If you tell us where the diary is, this will be quick and painless. If you don't, we'll tear this place apart. Get out of my house. We're not leaving without the diary." That's when Marilyn made a fatal decision. She ran to her bedroom, locked the door, and called the one person she thought could protect her, Bobby Kennedy. She got his home number from information, called the Kennedy compound in Virginia. A woman answered, Bobby's wife Ethel. "I need to speak to Bobby," Marilyn said, slurring her words. "It's urgent." "Who is this?" "Marilyn Monroe." "Please, I need to talk to him." There was a long pause. Then Ethel Kennedy said coldly, "My husband is not available. And Miss Monroe, stop calling here. Stop calling my family. You're not part of our lives." She hung up. Marilyn sat on her bed, tears streaming down her face. The 2 agents were pounding on her bedroom door, demanding she open it. And in that moment, Marilyn realized the truth. Nobody was going to save her. The Kennedys had used her, taken what they wanted, and now they were going to erase her. She looked at her bedside table, at the bottles of pills Dr. Greenson had prescribed, Nemboltal, Seconal, chloral hydrate. Maybe the agents were right. Maybe the easiest solution was for her to just disappear. But Marilyn didn't take the pills. Not yet. Because at 9 p.m., something happened that changed everything. Part 3. The phone call. 9 p.m. Peter Lawford calls. The pounding on Marilyn's bedroom door had stopped. The agents had apparently decided to wait her out, were probably searching the rest of the house for the diary. Marilyn's phone rang. She almost didn't answer it, but some instinct made her pick up. "Marilyn, it's Peter. Peter Lawford, Kennedy's brother-in-law, the man who'd introduced her to Jack. Peter, there are men in my house. They're looking for." "I know. Bobby called me." "Marilyn, you need to give them what they want." "Why?" "So they can destroy the evidence of what Jack did. So they don't destroy you. These aren't people you can fight. These are people who make problems disappear." "Is that what I am now? A problem?" Peter's voice softened. "Marilyn, I care about you. You know that. But you got involved with something bigger than you understood, and now the only way out is to cooperate." "What happens if I do cooperate? They just let me go?" Peter was silent for a long moment. "You'll sign a non-disclosure agreement, probably be monitored for a while, but eventually they'll leave you alone." "You're lying. I'm trying to save your life. By convincing me to give up the only leverage I have, that leverage is going to get you killed, Marilyn." After she hung up with Peter, Marilyn made a decision. She would give them the diary, but not the real diary. She'd give them a decoy. 6 months ago, anticipating something like this might happen, Marilyn had created a fake diary. She'd bought an identical red leather notebook and filled it with innocuous entries, complaints about Hollywood, thoughts about her career, nothing classified. She kept the fake diary in her bedside drawer, obvious and easy to find. The real diary was still in the hollowed-out Ulysses on her bookshelf. Marilyn opened her bedroom door. The two agents were standing there, looking annoyed. "I'll give you the diary," Marilyn said. "Just leave me alone after." She walked to her bedside drawer, pulled out the fake diary, handed it to Agent Miller. He flipped through it quickly. "This is it? Everything you wrote?" "That's everything." Agent Ross grabbed the diary, scanned a few pages, seemed satisfied. "Miss Monroe, you're to have no further contact with President Kennedy or Attorney General Kennedy. You're not to discuss your relationship with them publicly. If you violate these conditions, there will be consequences. Do you understand?" "I understand." The two agents left. Marilyn listened to their car drive away. She'd done it. She'd fooled them. The real diary was still safe, but what Marilyn didn't know was that the agents suspected she'd given them a fake. They were coming back, with more men, and different instructions, not to retrieve the diary, to eliminate the problem permanently. Part 4. The final hours. 10 p.m. 1 4-hour day. The wait. After the agents left, Marilyn tried to calm down. She poured another vodka, took 3 Nembutal pills to help her sleep. Eunice Murray was still in the house, in the guest room, as she often stayed overnight when Marilyn was unstable. Going to bed soon. But Marilyn didn't go to bed. She sat in her living room, drinking, smoking, waiting for something. She didn't know what. Just felt like the night wasn't over. At 10:30 p.m., she called Joe DiMaggio Sr., got his answering service, left a rambling message. "Joe, I think I'm in trouble. I don't know what to do. I wish we'd made it work. You were the only one who really loved me." At 11 p.m., she called her psychiatrist Dr. Greenson at home. "Greenson, I'm scared. Those men came to my house. They threatened me." "What men?" "Government men. FBI or CIA or something. They wanted the diary." "Did you give it to them?" "I gave them a diary, but not the real one." Greenson was silent for a long moment. "Marilyn, that was very foolish. I can't just give up everything Jack told me. It's the only proof I have." "Proof of what?" "Tomorrow morning, I want you to destroy the real diary. Burn it, then call those men and tell them you found another diary you'd forgotten about. Give them the real one. Do you understand? What if I don't? Then I can't protect you." Marilyn hung up. She was tired of men telling her what to do, tired of being managed and controlled and manipulated. She took 3 more Nembutal pills, then 3 more. The room was starting to spin. At midnight, Eunice Murray checked on her, found Marilyn in bed, alive but barely conscious. "Miss Monroe, did you take your sleeping pills?" "Moo. How many?" "Don't remember." Murray should have called an ambulance right then, should have realized Marilyn had overdosed. But she didn't, because she'd been told by Dr. Greenson, by people above Dr. Greenson, that tonight, Marilyn Monroe needed to be left alone. At 12:30 a.m., a car pulled into Marilyn's driveway. Not the same car from before, a different car, with different men. These men didn't knock. They had a key. They entered through the back door. Eunice Murray heard them but didn't call police, because she'd been told they were coming. She'd been told to let them in. Part 5. The murder. 1 a.m. 3:30 a.m. August 5, 1962. What happened in Marilyn's bedroom between 1 a.m. and 3:30 a.m. has been disputed for 60 years. The official story says Marilyn died of a barbiturate overdose, accidental or suicidal. But witnesses who came forward decades later told a different story. At 1:15 a.m., 2 men entered Marilyn's bedroom. She was unconscious from the pills she'd taken, but not dead. Not yet. They searched her room systematically, found the hollowed-out Ulysses with the real diary inside. One of the men put it in a briefcase. Then they faced a problem. Marilyn was still alive, unconscious but alive. And if she woke up tomorrow, she'd know they'd stolen the diary. She'd go public. She'd become a bigger problem than ever. One of the men made a phone call, spoke quietly for several minutes, hung up. "We've been authorized to complete the assignment," he told his partner. What they did next was efficient and professional. They prepared a chloral hydrate enema, a barbiturate mixture that would be absorbed into Marilyn's system rectally, leaving no pills in her stomach but showing up as an overdose in her bloodstream. They administered it while Marilyn was unconscious. She didn't fight because she didn't know it was happening. Then they waited. It took approximately 40 minutes for Marilyn's breathing to stop, for her heart to stop beating. At 2 a.m., Marilyn Monroe was dead. The two men spent the next 90 minutes staging the scene. They laid her body carefully on the bed, hands at her sides looking peaceful. They arranged the empty pill bottles on her nightstand. They removed any evidence of their presence. At 3:30 a.m., they left through the back door. Eunice Murray, who'd heard everything but had been told to stay in her room and say nothing, waited until 3:35 a.m. Then she walked to Marilyn's bedroom, opened the door, and discovered the body. She called Dr. Greenson. He arrived at 3:50 a.m., examined Marilyn, confirmed she was dead. But Greenson didn't call police, not yet, because he needed to call someone else first. He called the number he'd been given for emergencies, reported that the Monroe situation has been resolved. Only then, at 4:25 a.m., did anyone call the police. When LAPD arrived at 4:25 a.m., they found a scene that looked like textbook suicide. Movie star dead in her bed. Empty pill bottles nearby. History of depression and drug abuse. Sergeant Jack Clemens, the first officer on scene, would later say something felt wrong. The body was too perfectly arranged. The scene was too clean, but he had no evidence of foul play. Dr. Greenson gave a statement. Miss Monroe had been depressed. She'd been taking barbiturates for insomnia. This appears to be an accidental overdose, possibly intentional. Eunice Murray corroborated. I checked on her at midnight. She seemed fine. When I checked again at 3:30, I found her unresponsive. The timeline made no sense. Why wait 3.5 hours to check on her? But nobody questioned it too hard. The coroner, Dr. Thomas Noguchi, performed an autopsy that raised immediate red flags. No pills in Marilyn's stomach. If she'd swallowed dozens of pills, there should have been residue. High levels of barbiturates in her bloodstream and liver, suggesting the drugs had been absorbed through means other than oral ingestion. Bruising on her back and arms consistent with being restrained. Noguchi wanted to investigate further, but his superiors shut him down. The official ruling, probable suicide due to barbiturate overdose. By 8 a.m., the story was already being sold to the press. Marilyn Monroe, troubled star, dead at 36, apparent suicide. And the diary, it was already in Washington, D.C., being read by men who would decide what to do with it. Part 7. The Diary's Fate. What happened to the Red Diary? For decades, the diary was rumored but never confirmed. Conspiracy theorists insisted it existed. The government denied everything. But in 2006, a former CIA officer named Robert Maheu gave a deathbed confession to journalist Seymour Hersh. We retrieved Monroe's diary the night she died, Maheu admitted. It contained detailed notes about Operation Mongoose, about Kennedy's conversations with Khrushchev during the missile crisis, about the Kennedy family's mob connections. If that diary had become public in 1962, Kennedy would have been impeached. So you killed her. We neutralized a threat to national security. You murdered an American citizen to protect a politician. We did what was necessary. The diary itself has never surfaced. Most intelligence experts believe it was destroyed shortly after Marilyn's death. But some insist copies were made, that the CIA kept the diary as leverage against the Kennedy family. In 2012, several pages purporting to be from Marilyn's diary were auctioned. Handwriting experts authenticated them as genuine. The entries matched what Maheu had described. Details about Cuba, about Castro, about Kennedy's secrets, but the full diary remains missing, either destroyed or locked in a government vault somewhere. And Marilyn Monroe, who'd only wanted to be loved and taken seriously, died because she'd been trusted with secrets by a man who never should have told her anything. Epilogue: the truth. What we know now. Over the past 60 years, enough evidence has emerged to state with confidence, Marilyn Monroe did not kill herself. She was murdered by agents working for elements of the U.S. government who determined she was a security threat. The evidence: autopsy findings inconsistent with oral pill ingestion, witnesses who saw government vehicles at her house that night, the suspicious timeline and behavior of Dr. Greenson and Eunice Murray, Robert Maheu's deathbed confessions, CIA documents partially declassified, discussing solutions to the Monroe problem, the disappearance of the diary. What remains unclear is who gave the final order. Was it Bobby Kennedy, trying to protect his brother? Was it CIA officials acting independently? Was it Kennedy himself? We'll probably never know, because the men who could answer those questions are all dead now. What we do know is this: Marilyn Monroe knew too much. She documented what she knew, and that documentation made her too dangerous to live. The diary that she thought would protect her became her death sentence. The secrets she kept for the man she loved became the reason she was killed. Marilyn Monroe wasn't a tragic suicide. She was a murder victim silenced by the most powerful government on Earth. And the red leather diary that disappeared the night she died? It proved that in 1962, knowing presidential secrets could get you killed, even if you were the most famous woman in the world.